Thanks for joining Sales with Suli, a mom of three who spent the last 12 summers knocking doors. Welcome to my podcast where I talk about all things women, the ups and downs of my journey, and what it takes to find success on and off the doors. Enjoy this episode. Hey, welcome to this week's episode, friends. I'm super excited about who we're going to be having on the show today. I know a lot of times in this male-dominated space, we get a lot of the men out there who wear the Gucci, the flashy,
who does that? Worst type of dudes.
All the funny, all the good-looking things on the exterior. But in reality, these are some good guys that a lot of us are actually surrounded by in this space. And so I am going to be having Danny Pessy with us today. And what a lot of people don't know, when I first got into the door-to-door industry, and this is kind of what I like about Danny, is he isn't afraid to put himself out there. And so as I was searching the internet and kind of just like looking like how can I get some knowledge, or how can I get my foot into the door-to-door space, interestingly enough, it was just a lot of people pointed at Danny Pessy's Instagram page. And over the months and the year and a half, or in the year soon that I've been in door-to-door, kind of watching Danny has kind of just like, brought the fun into the space. And so, yes, Danny, I kind of want you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into the door-to-door space.
Nice. Well, thank you for having me, everybody. If you guys outside, keep it down a little bit, please. Got a bunch of my fans. Apparently, they're a bunch of pissed off customers. They saw me coming in here. They're like,
I am so dead.
Where's my gift card?
And did you give all these customers their gift cards?
No, I didn't.
Good. Well, you're going to be the salesman that we're talking about when we're trying to fix things.
That's right. Nah, I'm just kidding. But no, I've been in the game for about going on my 15th year now, so it's insane. And so, I started this job.
You started in 2008, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
you and I started the same exact year. We're going to talk about some of these parallel things in a little bit, but.
Yeah, so I started back then, and I was literally I was in a summer program, so I was doing alarms for a small company, and it was a summer program, and I was all, freaking 10 out of 10, 100% committed to my theater performing, and, I only got into this job because they told me I could make enough money in the summertime to live the entire year without having to work.
What are people in theater making?
Nothing.
Oh.
So literally.
So it's for fun?
Yeah, I mean, you 17 to 18,000 a year is what the top, performing theater artists right now are making, and so it's terrible. Yeah, so I was like, dude, if I can do that in the summer, I can work all year round, and then I could have a competitive advantage because I can go all these classes while they're working. I'm studying while they're waiting tables. I'm going out and performing and doing all these things. So I was like, dude, I'm gonna smoke all these guys. And so
wow, yeah,
it was pretty crazy. And so I went out, and my first year I was run of the mill, top 5-10 out of the office of like 40 people. So I wasn't the best, but I kind of figured it out halfway through, and then I came back home and just drilled. I bought a bunch of company shirts that said Grizzled Chucks. That was my improv troupe. So Grizzled Chuck was a comedy troupe that I started. And
so you go make all this money and you spend it on clothing.
Yeah, so I bought uniforms for our shows. I bought theater space, and then I paid for classes, and then I paid for comedians to come in and train my class. And so what's funny is I was in college, and I went to an audition, and I went in there, and my resume was insane because I spent so much time working on it, and I didn't end up getting the part that I wanted for a play, and I was so pissed. I was like, you know what? I don't like auditioning for people's things. Yeah. I'm going to go start my own. And so I started Grizzled Chuck. I did my own auditions.
Wow.
And what I did was I went literally classroom to classroom, and I said, hey, I'm starting up the school's first improv comedy troupe. And I went there, and I started telling everybody, hey, I'd go and ask the teacher, hey, can I take 2 minutes to announce a club that we're starting? And so I literally went classroom to classroom in the theater department and had over 150 people audition. And
really?
Yeah,
150 people?
150 people. It was insane. And so you get a lot of whack jobs at a community college. So like probably more like 75 qualified people. And so I went and auditioned, and I went and held the auditions, and I did callbacks and everything like that. It was just like
Were you so excited
I
about
was
that?
like, that's right. Now
Yeah.
who's freaking doing the callbacks, baby? And then I picked my team, and then I found out when the play's opening night was, and I put my opening night there. And since I had a little bit of money, I did the tickets all for free, and I bought food to lure people there. And so opening night for the play that I didn't make, I stole all of the audience, and they all went to my comedy show
Wow,
instead. So
exactly how you steal your customers and alarms. You
that's
just go
right.
let them go get set up with all
That's
these other companies, and then you go
Come
swoop
3 to
up their
5 years
signs.
later, exactly.
Got it.
Yeah, so that's when I figured out at a young age that I didn't like playing by other people's rules, and
Yeah.
if you're gonna make it in life, you're gonna have to make your own stage. And I realized very shortly off of a couple failed attempts. A lot of guys, if they try something, they fail, they give up. Like for me, the theater thing was really really powerful because it taught me that if things aren't going your way, make them go your way.
Make them
Yeah.
go our way. And that's kind of what I want to talk about with you. I remember listening to your podcast episode with Taylor Armstrong on the Solarpreneur, and you were talking about like every year having to like re-recruit and like remanage and basically like build again from like the bottom up, and you guys kind of went into that. And I want to take that honestly in a different direction. Like there's a lot of us like women out here in door to door, well, or trying to be here in door to door, and people like me, we don't talk about the failures enough. And what people didn't see like over those last like 10, 12 years was the failure of like having to rebuild a team or just getting up and redoing it myself. And when I was like listening to you having to re-recruit an organization every single year, and then some of the things that you had gone through with like some of your managers before just exactly doing what you did. You got up and you got out of your comfort zone. I want you to tell us like not just necessarily having to like rebuild, but how like your mindset behind the simple fact of having to start all over every single summer.
Yeah.
Like every summer, one, starting at zero, and then two, like having to restart like this recruiting game. Like, and why is it the guys just last a little bit longer and trying than we do?
Yeah, I mean, that's a funny, and I've done a lot of reflecting. I've got like a therapist and like a healing coach, and a lot of it comes down to is people don't quit companies, they quit managers. And
I hate that because I'm like, I take it personally because I know that.
And the thing is, there's two ways you can look at it. You can look at it that, you can get mad at them and be like, oh, well, they're not a great rep, screw them. Or like, hey, what could I do better to connect with these people? And I took the first route for a majority of my career, and that's why so many people quit. And, it came to me because one of my good friends, Taylor Livingston, kind of spread it out over the years is people want to work for real people.
Yeah.
And I had this misconception that I had to portray a superhero where there was no problems, everything was perfect. And I put on this mask for all these years of management. And what ended up happening, why they quit, is because, I put this mask on so I wouldn't be emotionally scarred by guys leaving me. It's one thing if you get a cancel, but it's one thing if you have reps quitting on you and then you take it personal. And I had that happen very earlier in my career where my best friend left me, and I got emotionally scarred from it. So I put up this defense mechanism where I didn't care if they stayed or left, and it was defense mechanism to protect myself from feeling vulnerable and feeling abandoned.
Yeah.
And so and a lot of that comes from with luckily I never had that in my family, but my dad, it was very very difficult to get him to show emotion, so I was always looking for affection from him. So that triggered the defense mechanism, which essentially made me like kind of a shell of a person. I put on this facade that nothing was wrong, everything's perfect, and I'm going to go out and crank it and throw down numbers. But then realizing that you can do that with sales, but the problem is with leadership is you're leading people, not machines.
Exactly.
And people are so starved for genuine connection, and when you're showing them a side of you that isn't authentic, people don't want to work for somebody like that. And with society, you'd think that, oh, well, you got to be a superhero, but it's actually in vulnerability is the strength, and people can connect to that so much more. And when you pretend to be a superhero, they don't get to see the vulnerable sides, and they just know that you're putting on a show and you're not a real person. And so people want to work for real people. And
When did you start like doing that, like focusing on just like the, the connections? Because I feel like right now everyone just thinks like you're so cool. Like everyone just sees like the surface level Danny, and he's just like the fun guy, the cool guy. Like everyone legit like wants to hang out, but like at the end of the day, you men in this space like have feelings and emotions too. And I feel like us women, we draw to those type of male leaders here who are showing authenticity, who are showing, a little bit of kindness. And I feel like you were doing that with me like early on when I first got into the space. So like, when did that?
Yeah, I mean, it's when I first started getting help, and I just got so sick of going out, being the top rep, recruiting a bunch of dudes, and then they all quit. And it's like my justification is like, I'm selling, so if you guys aren't, then you suck. And it's like, there's no true success. There's no true success without successors. And I just got really frustrated with it. And that's when I went out and started like paying people to help me and show me some of the things I didn't see. And when I started getting this coaching and, this.
So even while you were in alarms, like you were having like a sales coach, or were you having like a mindset coach? Like, so you were getting coaching outside of like,
outside of
being
the door-to-door
rep.
sales and
That's
outside
cool.
of selling. Cause I'd consider myself probably, I mean, I just gonna sound arrogant, but probably one of the best, like in terms of door-to-door sales. And it's not a lot, because a lot of guys, there's so many better guys than me that has done it, but they quit.
Yeah.
And so the thing is for a guy that's lasted this long, and it's like 1 through 10, if you've done it for 15 years, if you're not figured it out by now, then you suck. And it's like, there's something that did it. And so the reason I bring that up is because, if I would have, freaking put my ego to the side and was like, I'm so good, I don't need help. If I would have put my ego to the side and said, hey, this is an aspect of my life that's not doing so good, but I was so focused on, hey, I'm the top performing rep, I'm so good at this, and then other aspects of my life really suffered. And that was the kind of awakening point that I had, where I was like, dude, this is something's got to change. And after 8 years of everyone just quitting on you, your girlfriend leaving you, and like just kind of have a shallow relationship with everyone, it's like you get to a point where it's like, all right, dude, this isn't working. And it's when you have income and impact, you feel fulfilled. And I was having the income, but I wasn't making the impact on people. And so the fulfillment was gone. That's when I started looking for help. And that's when things really started to put in perspective. And it's like, this wall that I've built up of what you see on social media and all that stuff, like that's just a side of me. And there's obviously there's different aspects that I don't show certain people because of trust, and I have different roles that I play in life, and just like a show, and and sometimes the performing hat that I wear takes over too much. And I know that that's probably my most attractive. I wouldn't say that's my most attractive, but that's the one that's gotten me the most success in life. And so I typically tend to wear that too often, where it gets me into trouble, where the comedian shows up in like a relationship with my family. So I've been very intentional, and this is a big aha moment for guys, and this is what I've learned is you got to start identifying different people that you show up as in different roles. And so being able to see how you show up in this part, and there's different parts of you, and different parts of you in life show up in different occasions. And when you start running into trouble is when, you the part of you that's the top sales rep shows up as a top, because the skills to be a top sales rep aren't the skills you need to be a top leader. No. And you got to somehow change that. Or
the things that you need in like a certain type of relationship. Like people don't want to be dominated all day.
Exactly.
Every day.
Yeah, it's really funny because I make decisions all the time at work, and when I get home and I'm hanging out with my friends, it's like, someone please take the reins. Yeah. I'm effing exhausted. I'll pay for everything, but please take the reins.
I am so glad I'm not the only one. Like if I were to have my husband here, like I literally all day, every day have to be the one that like, helping people with their visions, helping people with their goals, coming up with like solutions. Like even like last night, having my son's birthday party, and my husband's like, where do you want to go? I'm like,
dude,
don't
please
even ask me where we're going to have a 3-year-old birthday party. Yeah. Just do it and I'll show up.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to know that, there are other people who feel the same way, like showing up in our relationships. We have to do it differently. But the biggest thing that stood out to me in what you said is that being able to have like impact, or being able to like impact people in this space. And I feel like that's why you've gotten into your coaching. I know for me, the only reason that I'm doing coaching, or some of the being in door to door for 15 years, I feel like I want to give back to
Yeah.
this space that has done so much for all of us. But I want to talk about the discomfort of where it started. Like
Yeah.
you only knew alarms.
Yep.
For all these years, you trusted all these people. What made you decide to just leave from that and go and like create exactly what you and Taylor have been doing?
Well, it started back in 2017. Me and Taggart were going to go out and start Door Door Con together, and we started doing a lot of the planning for it. And I knew that was
Wow.
eventually where I wanted to go, and then me and him kind of separated, and he kind of ran with it. And, ever since then, I was like, hey, man, I really want to do this. But for something in my psyche, I was still cranking really good at alarms, and I was still like, have that wall up. And then eventually it got to the point where, I switched into solar because I just was selling these coaching packages to Knockstar clients. And it's like, I'm talking to sales managers at,
Wait, so Knockstar has been around. So you've been doing this since 2017?
no, that
Okay.
I didn't, I started Knockstar with Taylor in 2020 in November. So it's been around 18 months, but basically I got out, I was doing alarms. I'm like, hey dude, I got to transition. So I'm like, look, while I'm transitioning into solar, why don't I try some other things? And so me and Taylor's like one of my best friends, and he's like a genius. Like he's so much better than me at selling and articulating it. And it's like, I've always looked up to him as a freaking friend and a role model. And, the fact that we were able to work together, I'm like, bro, this is freaking awesome. And so then I'm like, hey dude, let's try something out. Let me get the word out about it. And literally we promoted our first boot camp within 24 hours. It was completely filled up with 30 people. Then after that, we did another one, and it just went for four classes in a row, sold out within 24 to 48 hours.
Wow.
And so we're like, all right, well, this method is proven. Our guys are getting results, so let's freaking run with this. So I stepped off the doors and went full force running the business, and it's been really cool to experience that because I always knew I was going to be a performer, but it's just now it's just how. We talk about it being your North Star, and I always knew sometime in my life I'd be on stage entertaining people, and it wasn't the type of entertainment that I thought I'd be doing, telling jokes, but it's now teaching people how to get better. So it's
But you do tell jokes before you teach people, though, so you get a little bit of both.
A little bit of what I wanted, but that's just such a cool thing and people don't realize the long-term thing of this job is if you know what you want to do in your life, you can use this as a vehicle to get what you want. And this vehicle that I was able to do is essentially led me back on stage where I'm able to perform and entertain people. And it truly gave me what I wanted out of life. And that's why it's been so fulfilling. And what the hard part is, and I tell people, it's like, well, you see me now on stage doing this type of stuff, but I spent 12, 13, 14 years in a suitcase so that I can be here doing this.
Yes, like too many people are like looking at those of us on like social media or out there where, towards like the peak of our careers, we found like this type of success, and they're like, why can I have that? Like I get reps all the time, like, oh, I want to be like that closer, or I want to go and do this. But what they haven't realized is all the years that has gone into getting to where you're at right now. But I want to get back to the comfort zone, because one of the things that you were talking about with Taylor Armstrong was just how you felt mediocre. That you could, it was the same reason why I left pest control to solar, is because I already knew that I was at my peak and I can go and sling 10 deals and pest control every single day for however long. But I want to talk about the mindset or the comfort zone like behind that truly got you into a position that you wanted to do something different than what you've been doing for the last 10 decades.
I mean, it started with identifying what toxic masculinity was, and so I started to realize that that's what drove the culture at Vivint, and I realized that that's what kept me in that hamster wheel for so long, and it was they were dangling that carrot in front of me, and I spent my whole life trying to catch it, and then when I looked up and I got off the treadmill, I'm like, bro, I've lost so many opportunities because I was chasing that carrot. Like my old regional, John Frampton, literally started Solar City Direct and was like, hey, bro, let's go run this. I said, no, I'm going to get that carrot. Doug Robinson, owner of Legacy Power, left, and I could have been one of his right-hand man right off the bat, but I'm like, no, I want that carrot. And it's like I just missed all these opportunities because I was stuck with that freaking carrot in front of me, and I wish that people realize that the carrot isn't in front of you, it's inside you. Wow. And if you take time to really unravel some of the trauma and the walls that you've produced to get you to where you're at. You can find that, and that's what's been so magical about this is I didn't need a Vivint. I didn't need these big companies to make myself feel worthy. It was inside of me all the time, and I just needed help unraveling that.
I love that. Like, what are some tips that you would give to reps out there right now who kind of just feel comfortable? Like, they know that they can go out and, you know, get 3 deals, 5 or whatever it is, and they're just like super comfortable. Like, because it's like what you said, that was everything that you knew, and you saw all these people going out and living their lives and creating and having this amount of success, and we were still in the same boat doing the same thing day in and day out. Like, what would you tell like Danny Pessy, like back then, what you know now, to just get out?
It's comfortability, and you just know what you know. And then the other thing is start looking at your potential. It's like, what are you going to accomplish in life? And what's so fun is like that I've started running businesses and doing these little things like this and real estate. It's like, what potential could I accomplish in my life? And by staying stagnant at a company, it's like I'm not truly living up to my potential and expressing my essence of who I truly am as a person. And I believe I have so much good inside me and so much love to give. By being stuck in a role that wasn't serving that vision, it killed me inside. And so, you know, if you guys are in that position, start looking at your potential and start realizing that, hey, is this really all I'm good at? Is this really the best that I'm doing? And it's like a big kicker for you is like, hey, if your family or your kids, if you have kids or your kids you don't, if they were looking at how you're running your life right now, would they be proud of you? I don't have any kids right now that I know of.
That you know of. I was just throw that.
So it's just like, would they look at me and what I'm doing in life, and would they be proud? And so I think about that a lot, and it's like, you know, am I going to be living and creating a legacy? And, you know, the thing is why I've got such a warm spot in my heart for this industry, because it did change, you know, my life and a lot of people's, and it's changed my life because it was hard, and you can't do this job unless you're progressing and getting better. And that's what a lot of guys do is they progress, they stop progressing and they get comfortable with where they're at. But the thing is, you know, if you're out there selling and making money, the next step is, okay, how can you double or triple your money? And so, you know, how can you go and invest that? And it's like, how much more fun was this job when you're going out knocking to buy real estate? You're going out knocking to buy more cars for Turo, and it's like all these little things. You know, those are what keep you going. And if you're not pushing to get better and live up to your potential, it's like, why are you not known across the industry? Like, it's totally possible. Like, you know, why are you, if you're out working and you're watching this and you're like, dude, why can't
I do that? Like, why can't I?
It's like, dude, I was in special ed. Like, I'm not even a salesman. I'm a comic. And it's like, you know, how did I make this happen? And it's like, you know, it's, so
this is the side of you, Danny, and the side of men in this space that definitely attracts like more women to come here. Like, I look at a lot of the male leaders in this space who are loved, you know, where everyone just wants to be around them. And yes, Danny has like this funny side, and like, luckily, like, I can see, you know, beneath that, and we'll let him wear the hat that he wants to, that he wants to wear. But the Danny that I've been intrigued about is like just hearing your story and exactly like how you've had this carrot, you've been in this space, and it's like, no, I'm going to go and be the creator. Like, I'm going to go and do these things. And I know for me, being in the same position where I just felt like every single year, like, no, everyone would literally offer me like all these deals, like, hey, Sue, you can come and make this, you can come and do that. And for me, it was about like this carrot. It was about like the loyalty. It was about like being there. And I look back at the mistakes that I've made is not on necessarily the mistake itself, but what did my grandkids miss out on because I didn't move forward? Like, what did my future self like miss out on because I chose to stay in the comfort zone? And I just want to thank you just for not being in your comfort zone. Like, like the way that you portray yourself, it's Danny. Like, you don't give a rat's ass, like who is gonna judge you or whatnot. And, but I do kind of want to talk about that a little bit. Like, I feel like a lot of people, when they look at me, they think that I'm a social butterfly and that I have a ton of friends, but like my circle is really small. There's really like a few people who know like the ins and outs of Suli and what I go through. How have you been able to create or have actual authentic relationships outside of door to door with like these hats that we're like
Yeah,
putting on.
that's and that was one of the things. I looked at it, and I was like the top rep in my company one year, and I like called my mom, and she's like, "Oh, I had no idea. Like, congrats. So when are we going out to
Same.
dinner?" And I'm like, "Damn, dude, I worked all this hard. I went on this amazing journey. I didn't bring anybody with me.
Yeah.
And it's like when you get the finish line, you get the trophy. Who's gonna hug you
Yeah.
at the end?" And I'm like, "Bro, fuck, dude. I get something's got to change." And so, I started realizing that there's some relationships that serve you and some relationships that hinder you. And you've got to take the high road and unfortunately start limit some of the relationships that are hindering you
Yeah.
so that you can find the relationships that'll grow you and push you. And, that's one really cool part about, with Taylor, partnering with him, like one of the best salesmen that I've ever met. And then, starting to scale up my relationships. And so, that was a really big pivotal point for me is when you start cutting out the bad ones, you start finding the good ones, and then you got to start reevaluating your loved ones. Like I've got a really good relationship with my family now, and it started with being intentional about it. And I schedule breakfast every week with my mom while I'm in town, and I keep my phone in my car or I keep my phone away, and I'm 100% present. And people think that you've got to like spend hours and hours and hours, but just 30
No.
minutes of absolute presence
Yeah.
with somebody can give them everything that they want, and not only them, but you too as well. And investing in relationships outside of business, and because at the end of the day, this is just a job. This is just a hat.
This is just a vehicle.
Yeah, and people forget that when this is all said and done, when the uniforms are all gone, all the companies we work for aren't going to be around in 20, 30 years.
Right.
But the relationships that you make now will be. And if you do things the wrong way, if you screw the people the wrong way, like it's funny because, I've done this job for so long, and I see people, and there's people that wanted to come back and work for me that screwed me 10 years ago. And it's like, hey, bro, you're done. Like that doesn't work. And so it's like, be very careful with the relationships that you make, because people think your businesses will be around. But like I said, in 10, 20, they're gone. Everything's gone except for the connections that you make and the value that you bring people. So just remember that, and, invest time into it. And, the thing is family always comes first. Never, you can miss weddings and stuff like that, but never miss funerals. That's a big thing. Like, if I could go back, I missed my cousin's wedding because I was knocking doors. And if I could go back, I would change that.
Wow.
That was probably the stupidest decision I ever made, but I was the carrot, right?
Yeah.
I've never been married, never had I've had, light girlfriends here and there, but I've sacrificed that to get to the top relationship. Could have had a family, and I don't know where that chapter of my life will begin, because I consider this as my family, this community, and I have a huge obligation to help everybody get better, because I got some of the best training ever growing up at this, and it just would be selfish for me to not help this next generation. And that's how I truly look at it is, I am obligated to help train and give out all my information to this next group of individuals that are coming into this space.
And not holding back, like giving it and really giving it to us.
100%. Like alarms, it's crazy. I thought alarms I'd be in it forever. The industry's completely wiped out. I mean, it's there, but it's not as lucrative as it used to be. Solar, who knows how long this is going to last, and it's going to pivot. And so it's like, you're only here for such a short amount of time, and who knows if one of my pieces of information that I get, or some nugget that guy goes and buys a house and then takes that money and invests it for his family. And so just like with my managers did for me, I want to do that for this next generation on a bigger scale. And so I just kept thinking bigger. My max I've ever managed was like 100 reps, so I had like a decent region. But now it's like, I want to manage and lead thousands of people. And so my vision just got bigger, and I knew I couldn't do that working at a single company.
Wow.
It's being a consultant, and that plus with the charity aspect that we do, like of being a humanitarian myself, and we went to Peru this year, and that's been an exciting thing.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and that's where I'm really, really passionate about, because I want to, after I've made all my money, I want to do stand-up comedy shows or improv comedy shows, and then I want to travel the world to different parts and do charity trips, so I get to see the culture, be ingrained with it, and then help the people. Like that is so
and not
sick.
have to worry about anything like back home. Like that's why we're here, in this space. Like Danny, I just hearing this side of you is just something that's just so. It's just attractive to women in this space. I mean, I'm definitely taken, for sure. I'm not, but I'm sure there's plenty of single ladies out there that would want to that would want to hit you up. But I just want to thank you, just for being you. Walter's going to laugh when he hears this. But there's not enough of us who are just like showing up as ourselves, but then also focusing on some of those relationships, because exactly what you said is like all of these companies, they're going to be gone. Yeah. Like door to door, eventually like something's going to happen with like our different companies. But if we aren't focusing on the type of relationships that we're going to have, like by all means. And it's kind of why I'm like, I want to hang out with Danny and kind of see who he is. So thanks for taking the time. But before we get off, what I want you to leave like a couple of tips behind for people who just want to go and do them, instead of just leading like a small group, but going out and doing like organizations. Like what tips would you leave behind for people who just want more in life?
Yeah, and I mean, I've been a huge advocate as not identifying with a certain brand. I've always been my own individual brand. And the reason why that is because brands will change. But if you tie your identity to something that's outside of you, if that's taken away from you, it could really start messing with your psyche. And so for me, I've always, lived by the saying, if you want to play by their rules, you're going to get their prizes. If you play by your rules, you get your prizes. And so for me, I'm unapologetically myself. I enjoy buying vintage clothes. I enjoy wearing ridiculous furs.
I love seeing it.
Like
too.
That just makes me freaking happy. And it's like, people think that that's like that's just what I want to do. And cool. And I've been told, hey, dude, you're gonna hurt the brand, that type of stuff. And I'm like, if people don't, I'm gonna do it my way.
Yeah.
And if it fails, that's on me. And if it succeeds, that's on me. But I just want to let people know that if you're watching this and if you see how I live my life, like, do whatever you want and do
and be
it.
Unapologetic.
Be unapologetic because, at the end of the day, dude, none of this matters. And it's like, I want to give you permission to be yourself. And so I hope to be that beacon for people that, you don't have to you don't have to get stuck into the identity of being a Vivint bro or a Provo all-star. Like, you're identifying with other things. Like, dude, just be yourself.
I love that.
And, the thing is if you try to be someone else, besides yourself, then people are going to fall in love with that identity you've created rather than, being your authentic self. And of course I switch different roles, but if you don't let people see, the authentic side of you, then you're just going to be a freaking clown and pony show. So.
Yeah, no, I like that. Just showing up as yourself and being unapologetic. And so the next time that you guys see Danny out there wearing his Gucci and, has his leather bag and whatnot, like that's what makes him happy. And he's going to be unapologetic about it. Mm-hmm. Me wearing my Savers and thrifty t-shirts that I probably wore 3 days in a row, that's what makes me happy. And I'm going to be unapologetic about it. And so
that's right.
I love that you said that. And for any of you guys who want to get involved in Danny and Taylor's coaching, tell us where people can reach you.
Yeah, just hit me up on Instagram. I mean, we have all levels of support. We've got a year-long mastermind. We've got which basically includes calls every week with new content. We focus on vision, mindset, and technique. And so that's the big thing that we really help reps with is dialing that in, because if you don't have vision, you can't develop your mindset, and if you don't have the right mindset, the techniques will fall on deaf ears. And so that we found that's the most important thing that you can train people on, and so we've really helped dial that in for guys. And we've had a great community. I mean, it's just the group of people that we have. It's so awesome to see. We've got multiple women in our group that are throwing down.
I know. I love watching Melissa and some of those girls.
Melissa's crushing it. Yeah. Alex Russell's out there. Like, it's just nuts because we've had this one girl that's never knocked doors. She joined our program. She's like, I've never spent this much money in my entire life. And literally now she's a manager in Colorado 6 to 8 months later, and she sold 15 deals last month. And it's just, watching.
That's amazing. That was me too. I knew nothing in solar, and I started with you
well,
guys.
You were already nasty. But this girl, she's never sold door to door before. And
well, that is cool. Yeah. And to be like that good in solar. But because everyone doesn't know your IG handle, you didn't tell us what your IG handle is. Oh, yeah,
it's just Danny Pessy. DANNYPESSY. Do not misspell my last name. You'll end up at a very different profile. But hit me up on there. You'll see in my bio, I've got a couple different products. Like, we have different sales slicks and knot cards, just little materials. Sales slicks are basically used to engage clients, because what happens is at the end of the day, the customers will say, hey, I need to think about it. Yep. And it's like, what is thinking? It's images that paint up in their mind. And so you got to realize in sales, your whole job is to help create images in the client's mind that lead you closer to the close, where they feel like they're going to exchange their money for your service. Awesome. So handing slicks and painting imagery in their mind with question-based selling along with physical, tangible sales material really help paint that picture in the customer's mind. So
true.
I was able to go 2 weeks ago, a neighborhood that got knocked literally 2 weeks earlier, and just slap it like crazy. And so it's just,
You slapped it.
oh, just slap that turf, baby. And so, having sales material like that, sales slicks, having cards where every objection we give you our rebuttals. And so there's anywhere from $100 up to $20, $50, $100,000 deals that we do. And so,
$100,000 deals.
Yeah.
We won't talk about the deal that just happened, but good for you.
Yeah.
No, that's just like some of your one-liners and just like the nuggets that you give, like more people need to come and be a part of that. So again, thanks, Danny, for coming on today and, showing a little bit of your vulnerable, authentic self, before we see you on social media with all the Gucci and all that stuff.
That's
And,
right.
again, thanks for taking the time out to just kind of come and leave some tips. And until next week, friends, we'll see you then. Thanks for taking the time to tune in. If I've added any kind of value to your thoughts on knocking doors, please share this podcast with another female rep. Until next time, know that you are capable, you are valued, and most importantly, you are enough.